Oh, yeah. Here's my new friend. It's the day before Halloween, and everyone likes a spooky thrill, don't we? But you don't have to go too far, as author Mark Leslie points out in his new book, Haunted Hamilton. So if you're a Hamilton resident, we have a lot of stories to tell.
We do. I mean, Hamilton was, the site of the War of 1812, so there's lots of ghosts that go back to that era. There's lots of old, beautiful buildings, and many ghosts walking around among us.
So, good or bad ghosts, a mix?
There is an interesting mix. For the most part, they're just there. They're seen. They're not causing too much havoc.
Okay.
They may be playing tricks on people, but not doing anything too scary. Nothing poltergeist-like.
So, obviously, we have a fair amount in our region. So this prompted you to write this book because, I mean, there's some amazing stories, and it stretches through. We were talking about the Hermitage in Ancaster and that whole story on Lovers Lane, and you know. That there's a lot of stories to tell.
Well, there's a lot of sad stories. So I mean, with Lovers Lane, it was the young man who wanted the hand of his master's young daughter and couldn't have it, so hung himself. Yeah. And of course, his body buried on what is now called Lovers Lane in Ancaster.
Yeah. As I said, I lived right there, so I knew of that story even as a child. Yeah. And the Hermitage is a scary place to be.
Yeah.
Spooky.
Yeah. It is very, very spooky. Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of sad stories like that. Even Mount Albion Falls, when you think about the young woman whose betrothed abandoned her at the altar and she threw herself over Mount Albion Falls. And again, so there's these sounds, the ghostly wailing that is said to be heard echoing through the valley. So there are some sad stories. But then there's the ghosts that just hang out. You think about the ghosts at the Winking Judge down on Augusta, which is a great place to get craft beer. Sure. But it's also a great place to hear some fun stories about this character known as the Judge. Seen in an old-fashioned top hat. And cool. He is actually either hanging out on the second floor. He's seen in the men's washroom often. He's heard from staff walking around upstairs when there is nobody else in the building. Wow. And the other interesting ghost at the Judge is a cat. Sometimes patrons will be sitting at a table and feel something brush by their leg and reach down to pet the cat, and there's nothing there.
Wow, I spent a lot of time there. My brother's band used to practice up on the top floor in there, and so it kind of makes you, but you can feel it sometimes in certain buildings. You really do feel, like the Customs House we were talking about too, you can feel it in there. Let's talk about the library in Waterdown.
Oh, library in Waterdown. So it was interesting. Beautiful old building. And in 1978, some tombstones were found from the founders of Waterdown.
Really?
And the tombstones hung down on the main floor of the library, right outside the elevator. And interestingly enough, Marin Grierson, her name is spelled wrong on the tombstone. So they believe that due to this error, that she is restless.
Yes.
And as many times as they've had the elevators fixed, the elevators continue to operate on their own. They hear weird sounds emanating usually from the library. And interestingly, last year when I was doing a Halloween time reading at the library, I was telling the ghost story about the library up on the second floor. All the staff and the patrons were up there. The library was actually closed. We were all up in the kids section on the second floor. And as I was in the middle of my story, the library binged open. Again, unaccompanied, and everyone, of course, let out a yell. I think I let out the loudest scream.
Really?
Because
you're kind of in the moment too, right? And then something interrupts like that.
And that was really, really eerie. And I remember the manager of the library said, "Wow, that's exactly what we're talking about."
Isn't that something? And that is a beautiful building. I love that area of Waterdown so much, and it's a gorgeous building. So something to think about if you are visiting that area. So many wonderful stories in here, and you can go through and you can really connect. Obviously, we talk Dundurn Castle, but there are a lot of great buildings with some really cool history, and just to know that there are some beings around as well adds a little bit more to the picture here in Hamilton.
It makes Hamilton even better and more interesting.
Doesn't it? Yeah. I think so too. All right, we actually have 5 books. You brought 5 of your books to give away. So right now, you can call. If you haven't won anything in the last 30 days, you can call 905-645-2002 or 877-211-6688 to get yourself a copy of Haunted Hamilton. And I'm sure once you finish this one, you probably have so much more to write. There's just so many stories.
Yeah, my next book is Creepy Capital, going to be Ghost Stories of Ottawa.
Awesome.
And I'm close to having enough stories for a second book for Haunted Hamilton.
Oh, I bet you do. I bet you do. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Mark Leslie. Good stuff. And where can we find this book if you didn't win it today?
It's available in all local bookstores as well as online.
Yeah, something good to know, and gives a little bit more history of our wonderful city here. And I'm just going to hang out with this guy. We'll be back with more Morning Live right after this.